Thank you so much for being here. My name is Jeannie Joseph. I'm the executive director of the Human Animal Connection. We're a nonprofit here in Tucson, Arizona, in our 6th year. And we do many things. We bring therapy dogs to schools and to 911 operators, work with veterans. We help people we'll help veterans adopt a rescue dog. We'll help them select the rescue dog. We'll train them. We just had a person, he was 67 years old, never had a dog, and we just helped him adopt an amazing rescue, absolutely adorable little thing. And they spent a week here learning how to read each other's signals so that they can be in sync. And that was a wonderful journey and training. And they just left yesterday. So unfortunately, I fell madly in love with the dog. That happens. But it's exciting to be able to do that. So thank you all for being here. Okay. So often, we're the ones watching animals, but do you ever wonder what the animals might be thinking about us? So that's just something interesting to think about, is that they have thoughts and feelings and opinions about all the things that are going on. And it's really interesting to just recognize that they have thoughts and feelings about us and about our world. And the more we can better understand that, the better our relationship can be. So yeah, it's just a perspective shift. So, what we're going to be exploring today is the inner lives of animals. And this is a little exploration into what might be possible as we cross that bridge, as we cross the human perspective and allow ourselves to open to the perspectives of the animals, especially the animals who share our lives. So, this is Harry, and he was rescued from a house with 12 dogs. And in that house, he was the bottom on the totem pole of the 12. The little 9-pound dog ran the house, and he was really very much at the mercy of everybody. And in my house, he's the top dog. So it's just interesting to see how environments can change behavior sometimes. So there are 4 questions that I'd like you to begin to explore, not that we're going to answer them all today, but so that you can begin to consider. And this is Junior. This is the first donkey that taught us to work with therapy donkeys. So he was a rescue, and he's the one that got us all started. And he has a beautiful life now. He's in a sanctuary in Benson, and he races, and he is actually very high in demand. People want to race with him. So his dance card is always full. And he does beautiful work. He goes to assisted living and hospice, and he's just a total love. And he marched with us in the Pima Animal Care Parade for the first time they had donkeys. So the question is, does my animal have opinions? So we believe they do. And this is something that I'm just curious, how many of you feel that animals have opinions, that they have emotions, that they have thoughts, and they have consciousness? So maybe you agree with some of these, maybe all of these. You can just go ahead and put that in chat a little if you have some thoughts on any one of these, or if somebody has a question they'd like to ask or an opinion to share about this. We'd love to just hear your thoughts about these ideas. So I just want to tell you one little story. This was James French. He created something called the trust technique. Have any of you heard of the trust technique? I'm not. Yeah. So yeah, Julie. Yeah. And yeah, Carol Ann, yes. Was that a yes from Carol Ann? Yeah, great. Yeah. Wonderful process. So I'm certified in the trust technique. And this is one of James's stories, but I love telling it because it really helps people think about animal communication in a new light. So he was working with a client, and she had a horse, and she believed in it. But the client also had a daughter who had a horse, her own horse, but the daughter did not believe in animal communication. So she was not a believer. But the woman wanted to see if James could help with something. And James realized, okay, he said to the daughter's horse, okay, you better tell me something that only you and she knows. Otherwise, she's never going to believe this. And the horse turned just his head to the left. It looked over in the corner of the barn, and he told James, sometimes, it was a long walk to the house to go pee, right? So he says, sometimes she just goes in the corner and pees in the corner, he told James. The horse noticed this, right? So, and James was like, oh my God, I mean, this is going to be very embarrassing to say it, but he said it. He told the girl, sometimes you go over there and pee in the corner, and he pointed right to the spot, and that was it. The girl was completely convinced. So it's just really interesting, the things that they observe and notice, and they're very, very aware. So we're just going to take a moment here to get present all together because this is something that those of you who are interested in going on and studying animal communication, we really want to open the channel. And the channel is, that's what I call it, a channel where we can communicate with all animals. And in order to do that, we have to be present. And what I mean by present is that we're right here, right now. We're not thinking about what's for dinner. We're not thinking about what we're going to do tomorrow. We're just right here, right now. So I'm just going to take a moment and you can use this image. This is a book I have just written for children. It's coming out soon called My Dreamy Donkey about work with my therapy donkeys. So we're just going to take a moment and you're just noticing your breath. You can leave your eyes open, your eyes closed. We're just going to be present all together very quietly. Here we go, just for about 30 seconds. Good. And I hope you notice that as we do that, maybe some of you felt a little more peaceful. You can go ahead and write in chat what you felt. Did you feel just a little bit more here, a little bit slower, a little bit more open, a little bit more positive in your energy state? Yeah, Tammy mentioning goosebumps. Yes. Milo settled in more. Julie's dog settled in more as she did this. So this is one of the basic principles in the trust technique is that all emotions are contagious. So our animals and ourselves are sharing emotions, and that's good and bad. It's good when we're sharing good, and it's not so good when we're sharing stress. So we've all felt that with our animals. And what we can do is offer them this presence, this peaceful quality, and it can make a huge difference. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Tammy, for loving the artwork. I do too. I just love looking at this image. So, when we're doing animal communication, sometimes many kids and many cultures, actually, not so much the Western cultures, they're born being knowing that they can communicate with all animals. This is part of the culture. And so children in these cultures are not told that they're making things up or that it's just their imagination. They're supported in this. And many of us on this call today maybe have had this feeling that in our youth that we knew it was possible to talk to animals. And so in some ways what we're doing when I'm teaching animal communication, all I'm teaching you is how to not think that you can't do it, because the truth is this is a very natural thing. This is something that is our birthright. And as we grow up and in our culture and as we accommodate to expectations in the world, we lose this connection with this part of ourselves. But it is possible to reconnect with it. I call it reclaiming our innocence because this is a natural quality that we have. And I just love this picture because it makes me feel happy when I see it. But what would it be like for you? What quality would you like to bring forward that is part of that? Maybe your childhood knowingness, your ability to, maybe talk to plants or animals or trees or the sky. I used to talk to the sky. I used to watch the clouds. So there's something very joyous about opening this realm. So as soon as you say, okay, I'm going to open to this world of animal communication, not only do you get the benefits of being able to understand your animals, but you also get this experience of recapturing your joy. Yeah. Anyone else have any thoughts about what it would be like to reclaim your innocence? Any thoughts? You can go ahead and put them in chat or go raise your hand, go on mute if you'd like. Yeah, joy. It's very, very joyful. Connection with all animals, the oneness of all is very liberating. Exactly, Sue. Yes. Yeah. It's just a beautiful thing. Animal communication is good for them, but it's just as good for us because we are connecting with the parts of ourselves, our intuition, our knowingness, our sense of connection with all beings. And that is just a very joyful, great experience. So Einstein was once asked, what's the most important question there is? And he said, the most important question that you can ask yourself is the universe friendly? So a really interesting question because this will dictate how you feel. If you fundamentally believe that the universe is friendly, the chances are your glass is more than half full. If you don't feel that the universe is friendly, chances are you feel that the glass is often not half full. So it's a really interesting thing to just kind of ask yourself honestly. There's no right or wrong answer, but the question is, how do you feel? How do you feel? Is the universe a friendly place? Because one of the things that we really want to cultivate is this notion that the universe is friendly. Now, there are things that we don't like. There are lots of things we don't like, a whole lot of things we don't like. But fundamentally, is the universe a friendly place or not? So that's just something. Yeah, somebody said, was easy when I was a child, not as easy now. Yeah. So we're going to reconnect with that part where it was easy because you had it once, we can have it again. It's kind of like riding a bicycle, but a little bit more work. But so let's just see in chat if you would say, if you don't agree, the universe is entirely unfriendly, that's a 0. If you agree 100%, it's would put 100%. So what is your score on is the universe friendly? How much do you agree with that statement that the universe is friendly? So where are you? 100% is total agreement, 85 for Amy, 89 for Tammy. Wow, 100% I saw somewhere. Carol Ann. Amy, someone was 50%. Anne was 50%. Dan, 90%. 100% from Nancy, 75 to 85. Fascinating. Before COVID, 100%. Fascinating. Yeah. So, and we have periods of life where we are pretty sure the universe is friendly and, we can have some adversity and kind of doubt it. And so it's just interesting to go back to the time when you felt sure that the universe was friendly, because this will help you. It will give you strength as you're dealing with these different situations. Thank you for giving me your score. So, in the human animal connection, we even ask the question, is the universe conscious? So now we're going beyond friendly. The universe is basically positive, but is the universe conscious? So this is what we help people explore. People who want to study and work with our program is we're exploring, is the universe conscious? And I don't feel like I have the answer, and you don't have to have the answer, but this is the question that we're going to play with. Is the universe conscious? Because what that means, if the universe is conscious and if telepathy is real, then of course we can talk to animals, because it just means in telepathy, which is the ability to feel across time, space, and distance, right? To have all knowledge available to us. If the universe is conscious and telepathy is real, we can talk to animals anytime, anywhere, any place. Some days are better than others, but if we believe this, then it's very easy for us to go the next step. And it's okay if you're not sure. I mean, I've had conversations with academics and they're terrified of the word consciousness because they can't define it. And so they'd rather not talk about it, even though they kind of believe it. So it's just, this is the journey that we're on, is exploring, is consciousness real? Is telepathy possible? And if so, can I do it? Can I tap in? Can I feel? And if one person can do it, like I told you that story about James French, you can do it too. When I first started studying with James, he was so good at it. I was intimidated. I thought, oh, I'll never be as good as James. And maybe I'll never be as good as James, but I'll be as good as Jeannie. Do you know what I mean? And I'm always getting better. Animal communication is a lifelong journey, meaning that you can be good at it. And I'll tell you about one student who was like immediately good at it, who one of my students. But it's always a continual learning. It's like learning a new language because it's a new way of communicating. And we'll talk about what some of those new ways are. So I just want to go back in time a little bit. And this is Germany in the early 1900s. There was a horse named Clever Hans, and he was world famous. I mean, people would come from everywhere to come and meet him because he could do the most amazing things. He could do complicated math, addition and subtraction, multiplication. And what he would do is he would tap with his foot and, like 3 times 3 equals 9. And he would, tap out 9 steps. And people were so amazed that he could do all these feats. And some scientists came to study him and people weren't sure if it was real. Or finally, they discovered that Hans, who could do all these amazing things, could not do it if he could not see his person. And they went, uh-oh, fraud. And this set the world back, world of animal research back probably 100 years. People used to have in academic circles, they would joke about the clever Hans effect, meaning that you think the horse is doing something, but what they discovered was that Hans, the horse, was looking at his person, and the person didn't realize it, but he was doing the subtlest of neurological cues, like what I'm doing right now, just this tiny little nod that the person didn't even realize he was doing. But the horse was able to register it. So even though it was called a failure and a fraud and all these terrible things, the truth is this is amazing that a horse could pay this kind of attention and watch this subtle a signal. So instead of saying this was a failure, we should have said, oh, wow, this horse really is so entrained with his human that he can detect body language signals like poker cue, cute tells that are subtler than even the human recognized he was giving. So it wasn't deliberate on the human's part, but it set the whole field back for a very long time of mistrusting the idea of animal communication. Because, of course, we all want it to be true, but is it really true? And so I'm going to tell you some stories that I think will convince you that it's really, really true. So fortunately, we are in a revolution in animal science the last 20 years or so. Science is catching up to what everyone who shares their life with an animal already knows. And that is that animals have emotions, thoughts, and feelings. And so this was an experiment by Jacques Panksepp, and he discovered because they had new technology where rats will actually laugh when tickled. This was not possible to hear with the human ear, but the computer could hear it. And what he discovered was that if you tickle the rats, they will laugh. And then he discovered that when the tickler, the designated tickler in the lab, walked into the room, the rats began laughing in anticipation of being tickled. So I just think this is hilarious, very fun. And then they discovered many other species will laugh, including dogs. So dogs have a play pant that sounds kind of like that. And on a computer, we can detect it as a laugh. And what's interesting is that other dogs can recognize it as a laugh. And when they play the sound of dogs laughing in shelters, all the dogs calm down. So a whole line of barking dogs will go quiet and calm when they hear another dog laughing. Just like as humans, we go to a comedy club or something and everybody laughs and we just get happy. Even if we don't understand the joke, we'll laugh with them, right? There's something about laughter that's very healing and compelling. So they found dolphins make a playful laugh sound, and chimpanzees and parrots and foxes. So they haven't studied every species, but the ones that they've studied, they are all discovering that there's some kind of a laugh sound, which is just delightful. And the reason why this is so important is that you go back 30 years ago and people would have said, well, humans are the only species that laughs. Well, that's because we didn't have the technology to record sounds that were beneath our hearing range. And so this is an example of how science is beginning to catch up to what most people will tell you. If I ask you, does your dog play? Does your dog make maybe you've heard that sound and maybe didn't quite recognize it, but they laugh. Yeah, Harry has a little huff. It's fun. It's fun to be aware of it. So Dr. Gregory Burns did some interesting work. He trained his rescue dog to go into an MRI machine, and it's very long training. They have to train them to wear the headsets on their head. They have to train them to tolerate being still. They have to learn how to put their head in the headrest. So quite a bit of training. But once he trained his dog, he had other volunteers, and these are some of the volunteers that learned how to go into the MRI machine also. So this was the first time that we could study an awake brain, an alive brain in an animal. We've had the opportunity to study brains of deceased animals, but this was the first time we could see an animal alive and interacting with sounds, with humans, with smells. And what they found was the limbic system in the brain, which is responsible for emotions and memory and all kinds of good things, that the limbic system in the brain of a dog is quite similar. I mean, like 90 some odd percent of similarity to a human limbic system. So, what this does is it gives us some scientific evidence that dogs do have emotions. So, in the science circles, they're still debating, does my dog really love me? Is it really love, or does he just want treats? So now we're starting to see some evidence for a complex inner emotional life. So they process fear in similar ways the way we do. They process love in similar ways we do, or they process anticipation in similar ways that we do, curiosity, recognition, pattern recognition, and so on. So this is so exciting that the science is catching up to what many of us animal lovers already know. Isn't that good? Yeah, Nancy, I love the designated tickler. I love that too. I love that too. So how do we communicate as humans? Anyone want to offer any thoughts? How do we humans do this thing? Words,
I can
tone.
share.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Words are my second language. We communicate using words, sending vibrational thought forms and wave patterns, and then incongruencies come up if our words don't match our energies. And I think that's what you're going to teach, Jeannie.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Yeah, and this is one of the things that's very challenging for animals. Like let's say you're if a person is afraid of a horse and they go in and they try to not be afraid of a horse. So now they've got two feelings, afraid of a horse and trying not to be afraid of the horse. And the horse goes, "Oh my God, what's with this person?" It's so confusing. Mixed messages are very confusing. A horse has no problem if you're scared. A horse has no problem if you're mad. A horse has a problem if you're scared, but hiding it. Do you know what I mean? And that's that congruency that you were mentioning. So yes, we have words, we have tone of voice, we have body language, we have movement. So if I go like this, that's an event in dog language, right? So the animals have to interpret motion. So when we're communicating with animals, we're going to be very still because we want to take the noise out, the noise of movement. We want to take out the distraction of moving forward. These are kinds of things that we're going to be learning for those of you who want to continue studying with me with animal communication. We're going to learn that it's just as important what you don't do as what you do. But these are easy things to learn. Yeah. And energetic frequencies. Yes, animals are definitely feeling our energy. This is how when dogs meet each other, they instantly decide, I like you, I don't like you, or they meet a person, I like you, you're a dog person, I love you, or I don't love you. It's just instant. So how is it? They haven't heard a whole haven't read your biography. They just feel your energy. They don't need your resume. They feel your energy, right? Very good. Very good. Yeah. Yeah. So Caroline mentioned deep listening in the present moment. The eyes. Eyes are huge. Animals will look at our whole face and in an instant they tell by the position of our eyebrows that whether it's a real smile or a fake smile, they can feel all this. They feel all this. So they're watching both our body and our energy. And the reason that we communicate, of course, is because we have a desire to connect, to feel unified, to feel oneness, to feel love. Communication is a huge tool of connection. So I call it connecting with our animality. We are all animals, right? And the idea that humans are separate from animals is a really old idea and a not particularly good one. Not particularly good one. So when we connect with our animality, not only are we able to be more compassionate to other humans, but we feel more joy and connection with other animals. And sometimes, in our world today, in the modern world, we may belong to families or groups, but there's often a hunger. There's this feeling of like we're really alone in some way, even if we have friends and business associates and stuff. So part of this hunger is the hunger to connect at this very deep level with animals. And so that's what we're up to and exploring. Yeah. Yeah, Samantha noticing about being still. Still is going to be one of our great powers in animal communication, is finding stillness. And what's interesting is that even eye movement, like even if I hold my head still, but my eyes are switching left to right, animals see that, sense that. They really need to react to that. Yeah. Will you teach more about hunger and connecting with animals? Yeah. So one of the reasons that I find animal communication so joyous is that it meets that hunger in a way that we can't always do with humans. I mean, we do our best, and human relationships are very important and good, and we want them. But there's a way, like Jamie's connecting with her pooch right now. There's a joy there, and with humans, we don't always get that same level of joy. So learning animal communication is a way of addressing the hunger for connection that is beyond words, that's just full of love. Sometimes animals communicate things that aren't loving, but mostly it's pretty good. It's pretty darn good. The things that they want to talk about. Sometimes the human will say to me, "Can you talk to my animal about XYZ, some problem?" And I'll go and I'll talk to the animal, and the animal will say, "I don't want to talk about that." you know they like, well, let's talk about the love. It's interesting. I mean, they will talk about things that they don't like, but it's interesting that they're not as interested. Like people say, they rescue a dog, bring him home, they call me up and they say, "Can you tell me all the terrible things that happened to my dog?" And I go, "Well, I'll see," and talk to the dog, and I'll say, "So what are all these terrible things?" This dog, they knew, came from a horrible situation, and I'll ask the dog, and the dog will say, "Yeah, it was pretty rough." I mean, it's like they'll acknowledge it, but they're really not interested in the story of it. Do you know what I mean? Like they're more interested in, okay, I'm happy here. This house is safe. I get fed. I get loved. I get walks. This is good. They're much more interested in what's happening right now than they are in what's happening in the past. So yeah, I hope. And Tammy, if you have more questions, you can put that in the chat, but hopefully that was a little taste about that. I had one student, and she couldn't be here today, but she's in Canada, and she lived in a very rural environment, like right next to the woods. Her house was butted up against the woods, so she gets wild deer jumping over her fence and different fun things, and lots of delightful things happen. But one of the things that wasn't so delightful was she had an ant infestation, and she had an appointment with the exterminator to come and get rid of the ants, but she wasn't feeling completely comfortable about doing that. And this was just her third class. She said, "Is there anything we can do?" And I don't know if some of you have read the book by J. Allen Boone called Kinship with All Life, which is a book I really recommend. Yeah. Sue, you read that one? Have you read that one? Yeah, it's a wonderful book. So he tells this story. So I knew the story. And that's why I said, well, okay, if you want, we can give it a go. And she says, how do we do it? How do we get the ants to leave? You know, the exterminator's coming on Friday. It was like 24 hours or something. Yeah, Barbara loves the book too. So I said, well, what we do is we talk to the queen of the ants, and we tell the queen of the ants, we say, you know, look, I know you're having fun in this house, but this is my house, and I need you to leave by Friday morning. Otherwise, the exterminator is going to come. And, you know, we had a conversation with the queen of the ants, and I didn't know for sure whether or not it would work, but she had read the book too, and she believed it. And so we had this conversation, told them when they were coming, and lo and behold, they left, and she was able to cancel the exterminator appointment, and they have not come back since. This has been several weeks now since we did this. I told this story. I think Samantha heard and Jamie heard me tell this story. But yeah, so it's just, you know, there's some very practical things that can help us. It's not my specialty talking to insects, but it worked, you know. So we're going to go into a breakout room and spend a couple of minutes in the breakout room. And what I would love for you to do, and it'll be groups of like three, there might be one with, I'd like you to discuss what would be the benefits of communicating with animals, and not just in the abstract, but you personally. Like, what would you get? Like, one of the things working with Junior, he really helped me to understand a lot about what he wanted. He had been a rescue, and you couldn't touch him at first, but he became a fabulous therapy donkey. And he really inspired me to do this work. So it really turned my life around. Now I have two therapy donkeys. Let's see if I can show you Rosie and Lily. So the question is, what are the benefits of communicating with animals? And if we're looking for very specifics, like I want to know how my dog feels about when I leave town or when the daddy's away or whatever it is, be as specific as possible. Great. We'll see you in a couple of minutes. So we'll just give everyone a chance to get back in. How did it go in the breakout room?
Jeannie, you and I have been in contact in the past, maybe 6 years
Oh,
ago, once or
oh,
twice.
really?
But yes, yes, yes. And
Oh,
someday when I make it out there, I will
yeah.
come and visit because I've been in awe of the work that you do.
Oh,
Yeah.
and you're in New Jersey? Is that where you
I'm
are?
in New Jersey. Yes,
Okay,
yes,
wonderful.
yes.
Well, welcome back. People are still coming back in. All right. Well, thank you all for sharing. And if anybody wants to put anything in chat, you can.
Oh my God, look at Sophie Buddha.
Yeah, I want to tell you this story. This is a woman. She's retired, and she adopted a rescue dog that she knew had a past. So we think she was a puppy mill puppy. So lots of challenges. Sophie barely left her bed. We knew it wasn't a physical thing because at night she would play and romp around when her person was asleep. So we knew physically she was okay, but she spent like 99% of her time in the bed, would not go out to potty, couldn't put on a leash, et cetera, et cetera. We've been working together, but one of the things happened early in our sessions together was Sophie said to Ayama, that was her name, is don't give up on me. You know, because her friends were telling her, you got to give up this, you know, who can have a dog and won't leave their bed? You know, this is terrible. Everyone's telling her that, friends, family, neighbors telling her. And Sophie said, don't give up on me. And that was really what turned it around for her, was she recognized that there was really something special in their connection. And even though Sophie didn't meet the mold of how a dog should be, that Sophie was really important. So as that acceptance came in, Sophie began to really blossom. And it got to the point where Sophie would take us on journeys, you know, like we would go, and animal communications were not just about what Sophie needed, but Sophie would say, I want to take you on this healing adventure. And she took us to Tibet, and she's taken us to go meet the cows, and she's taken us to go talk to buffaloes. I mean, amazing, just amazing experiences that we have. It's just like really extraordinary. And it's all because the client was able to hear that message, don't give up on me. And now she's doing quite well with being able to hear Sophie. And we have these just lovely conversations together. So, well, now Sophie, she can go out and potty now, and she can take a leash and a little bit of walking. She's never going to be a dog that's going to go out into the world of her own free will, but she has a very rich inner life. And what this did is it relieved my client of the feeling of, oh, would we put her down? She has no life. Not true at all. She has this beautiful life, just extraordinary life. So, yeah. And another reason that we should talk to animals is they often have an opinion that we don't expect. So I had a client who called me, and she was a senior, and she raised champion dogs, had a reputation as a champion, and her dog was getting older, and people were saying, well, you need to adopt a new one, and you have to decide tomorrow, and you have to put the money down tomorrow. You're going to lose this puppy, blah, 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 that came from this bloodline and all this other stuff. And she called me, and I said, well, let's ask your current dog how the dog feels about a puppy, because her son wanted her to have a puppy, all her friends wanted her to have a puppy, the competitors wanted her to have a lot of pressure in that field of competitive dog training to keep going. But this dog that she had was like her soul dog. And so I said, let's talk with your dog. And when we did, the dog said, no, I don't want a puppy. I don't want to split the love. That's literally what this dog said. So this is an example of how in her external world, she should adopt a new puppy because it was time, in the sequence or whatever. But her current dog said no, and she realized she didn't really want it. She had some physical issues herself. She was 67. It wasn't really the right time to have a puppy in the house, blah, blah. So by talking to the dog, we really saved a lot of misery by just listening, by accepting the dog's opinion, because this would have not, it turns out she already had two dogs that couldn't share the house. She already had the house separated. Nancy has some cats that are separated. She already had a situation where there was not good harmony in the dogs that she currently had. So bringing in a puppy was not going to be the best strategy. So sometimes it really pays to just ask the dog. So this is Harry, and I mentioned to you Harry had been in a house with 12 dogs, and he became, when I adopted him, he became a fabulous therapy dog. So this is him working in a high school. We have a program called Canines Teach Compassion, where we bring them into the high school, and Jamie's come and done some sound bath with her crystal bowls for our students. And Harry would, say hello to everyone, but he would give this one student just extra attention, and he would stay there with her for as long as she wanted. And this was a student who would not speak out loud. You ask her a question, she'd nod her head or shake her head, but she wouldn't talk, she wouldn't engage, very detached. And Harry just gave her all this love, and it really helped her come out of her shell. And what she told me the last day of class was that she was in foster care and that her siblings had been split up. And nobody knew this. The teachers didn't know, the guidance, nobody knew. And Harry knew. Now, he didn't know that she was in foster care, but he knew that she needed some extra love, and he was always there to give it to her. So this is phenomenal because Harry's love, all the other students seeing the way Harry treated her and the engagement, it really elevated her social status with them, and she got special permissions helping us in class and helping us at events. It really brought her out, and she just completely blossomed and began talking in class and engaging with students. And now she's at Pima Community College and really thriving. So Harry helped turn her. I didn't do it, Harry did, and this is just a wonderful thing. And this is how I got started on this work. Was I had a dog that was working with soldiers with PTSD, a rescue dog, and he was just extraordinary. His name was Oscar. You'll hear about him in my other classes. So that's what got me started, because he could go into a room full of soldiers. He would say hello to everyone, but he knew who was suicidal. He knew who needed the extra attention, and he would just do what's called an alert. He would just sit and look at them until they melted. And this was a dog who had been a prisoner of war. He had been forced to be a wild pig hunter. He had scars all over his body, missing teeth, but the soldiers could really relate because he had all these wounds, and he was just the gentlest thing. And that's what turned my life around. That's what got me started on this work. So, thank you, Oscar. Glad to bring you in. So the first principle, if you decide to join my book club, the first principle is what we call the power of good. And the idea of this is that there is goodness in the world. And there are animals who want to help us. Who's familiar with the idea of spirit animals or power animals? Yeah, some of you, yes, yes, some of you, yeah, some of it might be new. So we have there are different, many cultures believe that we have spirit animals that work with us. Hawaiian cultures, native cultures, many, many cultures believe this. We're one of the few that don't talk about it, but it's really something when you connect with your power animals, and each of them can bring different qualities, like some animals might bring in courage, or some might bring in hope, or some might bring in persistence, or just the ability to have grit. We can get all these great qualities from the different power animals. And so I call it having a circle of good, that we have this relationship with our animals that can really help us when times when we need a little extra help. So you don't have to share who your power animal is, because some cultures believe that that's very sacred and private. But just for a moment, just as an imaginary exercise, who would you like in your circle of good? What power animal do you think you might want to have? Yeah, Nancy's talking about her wolf power animal. So even if you don't feel it this minute, this is something really good thing to do, is to begin to explore who is in your circle of good. What are some of the animals that peace, that really help you feel love and inner strength? In our high school program, Canines Teach Compassion, we teach the kids how to teach the dogs how to focus, how to look us right in the eye. We put a treat right here. When a dog looks at us, they get a treat. Pretty soon we add the word focus, because it isn't natural for all dogs to do eye contact. Some dogs consider it aggressive to look too long. So dogs need to learn how to do this, and therapy dogs need to learn how to do it, because this is one of the ways that they help people heal. Yeah, you can pick them all. Yes, Samantha. Yes, you have a team. You have a team. And sometimes it's the elephant that's going to help you, and sometimes it's the horse, and sometimes it's the cow, and sometimes it's the donkey, and sometimes it's the pig. So yes, you can have them all in your circle. And you'll find that some power animals come in for a time, and others will be with you your entire life, even prenatally. So you have many, more than one. Yeah. So we teach them that what they focus on is what grows. So if they focus on anxiety, they're going to feel more anxiety. If they focus on the universe being good, they're going to feel more of the universe being good. So this notion of going for the good, of what story are you feeding? Are you feeding the story that says the universe is a happy and safe place? Or are you feeding the story that says that the universe is unfair and dangerous? And we can understand why people would have stories like that. But this is something that we want to cultivate, is the choice, the choosing of good. And this is very often what a power animal can help you do, is that when we all have these anxieties and things that go on in our life and challenges, and in those moments we turn to our power animal, and the power animal can help us. Oh, okay, it's going to be okay. It's good. It's good. Even I can't see the good right now, but I know there's good that's coming. Yeah. Very nice. So yeah, so this is something to just think about. Are you going for the good? Are you orienting towards the good? Or are you orienting towards the past and what is not so good? I want to tell you about my soul cat, Wolfie. And I was very attached. Wolfie found me in New York City. I began to have dreams that I was going to get a cat. And I was like, I was in the movie business at the time. There was no way I could have an animal. I could barely myself, much less feed a creature, right? So I just said, all right, the dreams kept coming. I said, all right, if I'm going to get a cat, the cat's going to come to me. I'm not going to the shelter. I cannot go and see the cat suffering. And so one night I was sleeping on the ground floor apartment in Manhattan. I live alone, and I hear this sound like someone was trying to break in my back door window. I lived on the alley, and I'd been broken in before. So I yelled at it, rah, 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 all these curse words, get out of here, screaming. And then I hear this. I was, oh no. So I said, all right. I didn't have anything, right? I had some milk, but I was like, I'm just going to give him some milk. It was 30 degrees, winter, New York City. I'm just going to give him some milk. So I go with my little saucer of milk, and I go and I open the door. He walked right past the milk, right into my open door apartment, and right into my life. So he was just an amazing kitty. And I didn't believe any of this animal. I didn't know about animal communication stuff at the time, but I noticed that he had extraordinary abilities to tell who was a good person and who wasn't. He had better taste in men than I did. He really knew who was good stuff, even if I overlooked him. And I would do this thing. I put 3 scripts on the ground if I was trying to decide between which project to focus on. And he would go touch each one, and then he would settle on one. He would just lay down on a script. He was always right. He always picked the best script. And when it was his time, 17 years later of our life together, and it was his time, and the vet said it's time, and I wasn't sure, and I didn't know, or mostly I couldn't let go. I just couldn't. It wasn't time. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to ask him. And this was my first time like deliberately doing that. But I said, Wolfie, tell me what you want. And I heard very clearly, I want to go at home. I want to go when it's my time. And he told me when he was going to go, to the day and to the time. He said, I'm going to go this certain date between 3 and 5 a.m. He said, I'm going to go. And he went that day at 3:30 in the morning, exactly the time. And it really helped me to be able to hear what his wishes were, because the vet was saying, well, let's just do it here, let's make the appointment. And it didn't feel right. And I'm not against euthanasia. I've helped other clients choose that, but and it's right when it's right, but it wasn't for him. And he was able to tell me that, and that gave me so much assurance that I knew that I was doing the right thing, which we all need that when we're facing that issue. So this is just one way that we can really use animal communication to make everybody's lives easier. It takes out the guilt, it takes out the worry. It's just amazing. So yeah, Wolfies. It took me a long time. I mean, it was 20 years before I could say I really want to do this, but he opened that door. He was the one who cracked open my beliefs. So thank you, Wolfie. Thank you. So, what if you could communicate with animals? And some of you have mentioned that you do, and that's wonderful. How would that change your life? How would that change the life between you and your animals? Would anyone like to share? Would stop guessing, Sue says. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And there are times where it's just so painful to guess. So that's why it's, these moments of transition, we really need to be able to hear and understand if it's the right time. Anyone else want to share? Would expand my awareness and deepen my bonds with my kitties. Yes, Nancy. Wholeness would expand through everything. Yeah, it's just amazing when we can realize that we might be in separate bodies, but we're not separate telepathically. Yeah, more peace. Yeah. So let's just take a moment and tune in. What if your animal could tell you what they love, what they fear, what they need, and how they experience your life together? And if they knew that you were listening, see, animals will talk when they know that you're listening. They have to, it's like, if you had a friend and you called them and you left a message and they never called you back, and you called again, they never called you back, and you called again, they never called you back, you'd stop calling. So animals need to know that you're listening, and they will not stop talking. They love to talk. So let's just take a moment. We'll just take a moment quietly and kind of muse on this. It really opens up your world, and it opens up their world, and it opens up the bond. Just like, great communication deepens all relationships. Yeah. So some of you, this was a great taste. For others of you, you might be interested in going deeper. So let me tell you what I have coming up. As you know, I've written this book, The Human-Animal Connection, Deepening Relationships with Animals and Ourselves, and it's based on 33 principles. So what I'm going to do is a little 5-week online journey experience. So it's like a book club. We're going to read a chapter or two a week, and you'll read the chapter ahead, and then we'll meet, and there'll be exercises that you'll do to practice learning this. And this, what we're going to do is focus on the kind of prerequisite skills for animal communication. What I find, I've studied with a lot of different teachers, and I was an assistant in the last class that Penelope Smith just did. She's considered the grandmother of animal communication. She's been doing it for 50 years. I was her assistant, and I got to see a lot of students as they're on their journey. I was grading their case studies and their capstone projects, and seeing that there were certain fundamental skills that were kind of lacking, particularly learning how to get present, learning how to tune in the channel and learning how to tell the difference between your own thoughts, what you're hearing from the animal. So this class is kind of designed to set you up for all of these basic skills. And what I find is that there are 3 human obstacles to good animal communication. And the one is feeling like you can't really drop into presence, that you don't really know how to get there. You know it's good, you'd like to do it, but you can't quite get there. So we're going to work on that, helping people consistently drop into presence so that you can do it not only when you're talking to animals, but when you're driving in traffic or wherever you are at work or whatever's going on, that you have the option of knowing how to just settle down deeper beyond the thoughts. The second problem that people face is doubting their inner knowing, doubting that they can do it, or doubting that what they're hearing is from their animal. And this has to do with needing to learn how to distinguish between sending a message, which is like a thought, and receiving a message, which is like hearing. So to be able to tell the difference instantly, what's a hearing, as in something I've heard from the animal, versus what's a thinking, which is my normal thought process. And we are thinking humans. It's a great thing to be able to think. My mother had dementia and lived with me for the last 3 years, so I'm all about being able to think. But in this case, we want to be able to know the difference between what am I thinking and what is Harry telling me? What is Sophia telling me? What are my donkeys telling me? And this comes with practice. First of all, understanding how your intuition communicates with you, because some people will see pictures from animals. Some people will receive words from animals. Some people will receive sensations. So you have your unique way that you receive, ideally. We want to open up all the senses, but you will have, like I hear more than I see. I see, but I hear more. So I will hear words, I'll hear sentences, I'll get lots of information, but everybody's going to be a little bit different. But we want to be able to really know beyond a shadow of a doubt what is a message that comes from an animal. And often, one of the ways that I know is that animals surprise me. The things that they say surprise me, like that dog who said, I don't want a puppy. I don't want to share, even though the human was fairly certain that's what she should do. But the minute we said that, she realized that her dog was right. So this is Sophia, and she's my little rescue. And she was a feral dog. She used to scare grown men. She was kind of doing what Julie was describing as happening on the golf cart. Oh, right. Thank you, Samantha. Yes, the book is available on Amazon. Thank you for telling everyone. Thank you for putting that link in. Yeah. What we'll be helping you do in this class is learning how to connect to your innate animal wisdom. Because Sophia, as I mentioned, she was this feral dog. Men would not come into my house, like the maintenance men, unless she was strapped to my waist, because the door would open and she would turn into Cujo. She'd be auditioning for her role in the Cujo remake, right? So this is where we started. It was a long journey. It was 3 years of training before she could be a therapy dog, but she had a 10-year career as a therapy dog. She's pretty much retired now, or semi-retired. We're going to go work with some kids with cognitive disabilities on Monday, but she had an amazing path, and it was very in when we were first in training classes. It was so embarrassing because these big, huge dogs would come and just look at her, and she would go, turn into, and it was so embarrassing in training class because, oh, I think Sophia could be a therapy dog. I just think this, and the teachers would look at me like I was an idiot. So it was very rough until we did some of these techniques, and then she turned right around. But so we'll be learning how to listen to and trust your intuition, how to really hear your intuitive voice, feel your intuitive voice, see pictures, to be able to get that level of information coming to you easily and knowing what it is. So we'll be learning how to cross the bridge to animal communication, which is the ability to go beyond, I'm a human, you're a dog, and we are two beings connecting. So we're going to go past that species divide. And then we're going to understand the emotions that drive behavior, because anytime an animal is expressing a behavior, there's probably an emotion behind it. Right, Julie? So yeah, this is what's going on, is there's an emotion. When we communicate, we can understand more about that. And also, of course, being in this class, you're going to have an animal loving community that you're going to practice with. We'll be practicing with each other's dogs and so on. So that's a little bit about the 5-week class, which is a prerequisite for my animal communication class. So I'm doing both teaching people privately. So I have students who are learning animal communication one-on-one, and other students who want to do it in a group. But this first class, which is the prerequisite, is 5 Sundays, July 12th through August 9th. And it'll be the same time, Sunday, 1 o'clock Arizona time. It would be different time zones for if you're in different places. But 5 Sundays, July 12th through August 9th, and the early bird registration is $97, which I think is very reasonable for a 5-week class. And this will be the prerequisite for my animal communication class, which begins in September. I really want to make sure that we start at a high level, which is that people have these kind of basic skill sets so we can go deeper. So if you would like to sign up for that, that's on my website now. You can sign up for that class if you feel you would like to do the 5-week preparation for animal communication. So if you would put it in chat or say it out loud, there was a lot that we covered, but what was your favorite part of our time together? What was something that stood out to you? What was your favorite part? What are you going to use right away? And I'd love to hear that. Oh, website link is thehumananimalconnection.org. Then navigate to classes and you'll see the book club. And you can sign up there for the book club. So you'll see that book club there. Favorite part from Nancy was the assertion that universe is conscious and friendly. Yes. It's huge to just every time, there's some crises, as there are many right now, just remind yourself, the universe is friendly. I think they're going to work this stuff. Somehow this is going to work out. And Jamie says, thank you, Jeannie. Your calm presence and engaging stories are so inspiring. Can't wait to learn more from you and your animals. Yay. Okay, Tammy, the purity transmitted. Oh, thank you. So entire and so wholesome. Lovely.
I'll speak out loud.
Go ahead. Go for it.
I think you know where I'm coming from on this. I found Jeannie about 6-8 months ago, and I am one of her biggest cheerleaders. So I try to spread the word because I think this work is so important, and so many of us have pets and animals in our life, whether they're out the back wall just eating your garden or in your home. And I think the more we learn about this and the more we can do this with each other as humans too, I think that makes a huge difference. So, and I understand you got 2 more of my community from last week's in-person session. So
yay.
Yay.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So good. So good. Animal communication leads to more harmony in the home. In any relationship where there's better understanding, things are just, oh, that's why you're doing that. What is it I could do differently or whatever really, really makes a difference. So just one last announcement. For those of you in Tucson, we have Donkey Day Christmas, which is Sunday, December 13th at 1 o'clock at Brandy Fenton Park. You can come and participate or volunteer with us. We have rescue donkeys from Benson, our donkeys, some animals from track, and some older senior dogs who are unlikely to get adopted because they're not pretty or they're older, they're hurt or they're this or they're that. But anyway, it's a wonderful time for all generations to come and just meet the donkeys and have some love. And yes, if you'd like to be a sponsor at our event, let us know. And make sure that you're signed up for our free newsletter because that's where we'll announce upcoming things. And we have gone to Green Valley to teach this class, so that was fun. Julie arranged that. So if you have a big group, a group will come and do this session for your group too, if you'd like to do that. But Donkey Day Christmas is just so fun. It's just a day full of joy. We had 865 people register last year, and I think, it's precious. We have Santa, and we're going to have My Dreamy Donkey book will be launched for that event, the coloring book and the story, and lots of fun things will be happening. So I hope that you will join us for Donkey Day Christmas. So mark your calendar, Sunday, December 13th at Brandy Fenton Park. Thank you all for being here with our inaugural class. I hope that I'll see you in either our book club coming up or another class somewhere along the line. And please keep opening your hearts and minds to just exploring the world of connecting with animals on a deeper level. Thank you. Yeah, so Julie's saying, great book. Even if you can't do the book club, go ahead and read the book because this is the work. We're in it. So thank you all for being here. I really appreciate this. Is our first time doing this particular project, and I'm happy. Yay!
Thank you, Jeannie. Bye.
Okay, bye. And keep in touch. We can always do private sessions if you need them. Yeah.
Thank you. This was really enjoyable. Thank you.
Oh, great.
Thanks so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.